Welcome. This is a little 5-minute overview of the history of codes. What I'd like to kind of tell you a little bit is this was kind of a short version of what our fire chief in the city of Nacogdoches gave by Keith Kimblinger. So I want to kind of show you a little bit about it, or tell you a little bit about it. About 1910, most fire departments were made up of volunteers who worked out of a horse-drawn carriage. And the fire department the fire chiefs and the firemen were kind of the first people that kind of were instrumental in creating codes. Every city's building officials and fire department fall under different categories. And I'm just going to show you what the matrix of how the city of Nacogdoches has the inspection services. You can see it's on the left-hand side here, and they answer to the fire chief. So every permit clerk, every office, and every department may be different in each city. So when did codes begin? A lot of times people ask that. The use of codes can be traced back as far as the 18th century BC to the Code of Hammurabi, which was a collection of laws governing Babylonia. The code, of course, made the builder accountable for the house he built. If one of his buildings fell down or hurt someone, especially killed someone, the builder or someone in his family would be put to death. The Great Fire of London happened between September the 2nd through the 5th in 1666. And the fire began in a bakery on Pudding Lane. And before the fire began, there had been a great drought in London that lasted for 10 months. So the city was very dry. And in 1666, lots of people had houses made from wood and straw, which burned, of course, very easily. The heat created by the fire was so great that the lead roof on the old St. Paul's Cathedral melted. Many saw the lead flowing down the streets, and it said that many pigeons lost their lives as they refused to leave their nest, and their wing feathers got burned, and they plummeted into the fire. But in actuality, human casualty rate was remarkably small, and it's recorded that only 5 people died in this fire. After the fire, King Charles II came up with a plan. His plan was to create fire breaks. So this required knocking down perfectly good buildings, but starving the fire other wood that needed to be, of course, other buildings that would not burn. This is just an example of how disasters turn into examples to prevent fire from spreading. In 1871, there was the famous Chicago fire, which caused many fatalities. Dry weather and abundance of wooden buildings, streets, and sidewalks made Chicago vulnerable for fire. As a result, some of the larger U.S. cities developed their own municipal building codes. Some are still in use today. The Great Chicago Fire burned from Sunday, October the 2nd, to early Tuesday, October the 10th. And the fire killed approximately 300 people and destroying, of course, about a third of Chicago and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. The fire began in or around a barn located on the property of Patrick and Catherine O'Leary on the city's south side. The tale is the cow knocked over the lantern, but truth be known, no one really knows how the fire got started. Growing awareness of building safety inspired the development of other organizations and additional codes. And you can see all of these big codes that you see here made the fire department and made different types of people create codes. As you read in your text, chapter 1, you will see that there's used to be several different types of building codes. And they were based on the region. The National Building Code was generally used in the eastern and midwestern regions, and the ICBO codes was primarily in the western regions, and the SBCCI was a code produced for the southern states. But in 1994, consolidating and putting their efforts into one set of codes got started. And that's where, of course, we're going to end up studying and utilizing the International Building Code. We'll be using the International Building Code in the course, but you're going to see there's lots of different types of books that are spun off of that, from the plumbing code, mechanical code, the fire code, and others that you will see here. Also, you will see reference of the NFPA. In New York in 1990 was one of the most deadly fires that happened in New York. And it was at the Happy Land Social Club, killing approximately 87 people. An arsonist carried a garage and a container of gasoline sparkling the inferno. No one had checked the facilities, and no one in the city knew the club was running. The club had only one entrance. So when the fire started, no one had a way of getting out. The only exit got blocked because the door swung in and everyone ran to the door, and no one could get the crowd to back up or get the door open. So you see, a lot of times disasters, especially fires, have been instrumental in creating building codes. So we've come a long way from the fire departments and, of course, what we've seen in the 1900s, but you can see these disasters have been very instrumental in creating the new building codes that we have today. So I hope you enjoyed this short little version about the history.